We're going to replace the clock spring in this '04 Toyota Sienna. The most common part that causes the horn or the cruise control and many times the airbag not to work. You will need a specialty tool to pull the steering wheel. You can borrow these at most auto parts stores. Let's get right to it. The first thing we're going to do is center the steering wheel and set the tires straight so the clock spring is at its halfway in each direction. Next we're going to disconnect the battery, and you should wait 30 minutes before starting this job, as we're going to remove the airbags, and there are capacitors that hold electricity for a bit, even after the battery is disconnected. An extra caution should be taken when handling airbags. Next we'll remove the lower cover behind the steering wheel. Insert the key and turn it to the on position. And turn the steering wheel halfway, and it will reveal a Phillips screw behind the wheel, holding the cover. There's one on each side. Lift up the screw if it falls. Then the lower cover can be pulled down. There's still a few tabs holding it to the upper cover. A good tug downward will release the cover. You might need to tilt the wheel up so the cover can come out all the way. At this point, straighten the steering wheel so it's centered again. Next we remove these two plastic covers on each side of the steering wheel. You can pry them out with a flathead screwdriver. Next we will loosen the two torque bolts that hold the airbag in place. They require a T30 Torx bit. These bolts don't actually come out as they're attached to the steering wheel assembly. Once they are loose all the way, the airbag will pull out. If it's not coming out, make sure the bolts are out all the way. Pull the airbag out slowly, as there are plugs attached to it. Remove the two electrical connections. You use a small flathead screwdriver to pull out the little yellow holder in the center, and then the plug pulls right out. Next, remove the single wire. It's for the horn. It should pull right off. Now we can set the airbag aside. Unclip the harness on top from the clock spring. Next we remove the nut holding the wheel in place. It's a 19mm. Just hold the steering wheel while breaking it free, unless you have an impact wrench. At this point, make sure the steering wheel is perfectly straight again, and so are the tires. Next we will use the specialty tool to remove the steering wheel, as it's held in by the splines to the steering column. To use the tool, you'll find the two bolts that easily turn into the two holes on each side of the wheel, and then use the bracket in the center bolt to pull the wheel out. This is what it should look like before tightening the center bolt and removing the wheel. Before completely removing the wheel, notice how the wires are routed for a smoother reassembly. Remove the wheel. Here's our clock spring. We have 3 electrical connections on the back that need to be removed. I like to use a thin flathead screwdriver to lift the locking tab and disconnect the plug. It's usually easier than pressing the button, as over time the button is less effective for lifting the tab. The clock spring will slide right out. Compare the two parts. They should look the same in the front, but in the back there is another sensor you have to remove from the old one and put it on the new one. There are 4 tabs that you lift with a small flathead screwdriver, gently so they don't break, while lightly lifting the sensor from the clock spring, and it will separate, and it will clip right onto the new clock spring. Install the clock spring. Make sure not to turn the mechanism before the installation, as it can damage the inside coil. Some clock springs come with a keeper, so the clock spring won't turn by accident until it's installed. You will have to remove it before it's installed. Mine had a little orange stopper right here. It should pull out. Next, reconnect the 3 wire plugs on the back. Next, install the steering wheel. Make sure it sits straight. Attach the harness to the top of the clock spring. Next, install the 19mm nut. Attach the wiring to the airbag. And don't forget the horn wire. If the airbag won't sit properly in place, it's probably because 1 or 2 of the torque bolts that hold it in place need to be pulled out a bit, as they might be in the way. Tighten those bolts. Replace the little covers. Replace the lower cover. Reconnect the battery, and you're done. Make sure all the functions work properly, such as the horn and buttons, if it has them. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing so you don't miss other videos that might be helpful to you. You can subscribe right here under the video. Thank you for watching.